Chapter 37 Battle begins. Gomu Gomu no Mochi. There were several people wearing robes bouncing to the side and then coming out of the window of the school building, as Luffy, Zoro, Issei and Rias were running to where Gasper was. They mean behind the school to go to the building of a cult club building faster and enter other school buildings so that they are not seen by the hooded people. Is Gasper all right? Rias wondered. Take it easy, isn't there a cat girl there, said Zoro. Rias is shocked because Zoro knows who Kaneko really is. Rias underestimates Zoro. Luffy was seen looking at the window beside seeing that there were lots of explosions outside the building. Wow, it looks like it's very crowded outside, said Luffy, who couldn't wait to fight too. How do you know about Kaneko, Zoro? Rias asked. Zoro smiled at the question from Rias. They looked forward to their curves and turned except Zoro, who continued to go straight ahead. Hey Zoro, you're going the wrong way. Issei shouted, seeing Zoro stray. Zoro was shocked and then turned to turn, looking Zoro's face that was annoyed with embarrassment. Luffy just laughed at Zoro. Issei and Rias seemed to hold back laughter too. Shut up all of you, Zoro shouted irritably. Luffy was still laughing while Issei and Rias then laughed too. Zoro was more annoyed to see them laugh. Then there appeared several enemies in front of them. Zoro then took out one sword. Kill them, shouted someone wearing a veil. Then came a few light shots heading towards Luffy's group. Zoro smiled at the light shot. Zoro dodged all the light shots using his haki. Zoro then prepared to attack. Slash, slash, slash. Zoro slashed the people so quickly that they didn't realize it. Zoro was not too bad at cutting equals, so they lost consciousness. Good job Zoro, said Issei. Zoro then sheathed his sword again. They then continued their journey to save Kaneko and Gasper, who seemed to have been hit by a problem. We have to be faster, said Issei. The others just nodded understanding. Luffy then realized that there was someone coming from above them, and sure enough, there were some people who appeared above them and seemed to be issuing a magic attack. Watch out, shouted Zoro. The two of them then dodged the magic attack, saw a very strong explosion in the building and destroyed the passageway. Are you all okay? Issei shouted to his friends. I'm fine, said Luffy, smiling happily because he thought it was extraordinary. Me too. Zoro was seen waking up while cleaning the dirt on his clothes. Issei saw that they were still so many. Their magic energy could not be said to be bad or low. Luffy gets ready to attack them. Gomu Gomu no pistol, Luffy shouted, who then attacked them. Some of them were then attacked by Luffy and then bounced backwards. Zoro did not want to lose to Luffy. He then took out his sword again to attack the rest of them. Zoro slashed them all quickly. They are both really strong, said Issei in amazement at the two pirates. Rias just smiled seeing Luffy and Zoro easily defeat all of those people. Luffy and Zoro continue to defeat all those people. The hooded people lost all. Finally, said Luffy. Zoro once again sheathed his sword. They thought that they seemed to have been blocked by some of them because there were several people in front. They won't run out. Hey you guys, go, let me overcome this, said Zoro. Luffy smiled understanding with the first mate. Luffy was sure that Zoro would be safe because Zoro was the strongest warrior in his crew, not including himself. Luffy then ran forward very quickly. Come on Rias, Issei, Luffy called. Rias and Issei then ran with Luffy. Rias saw Zoro, who was blocking the people to approach them. Rias hopes that Zoro is fine even though he knows that he is strong. Zoro lived alone. Come forward all of you, Zoro said with a smile. In the destroyed room of the school. Seen now, the headmaster's room is completely destroyed. Mayu and the other two faction leaders are preparing to fight the enemies. Surzetches is still talking with Rias Peerage while Azazel and Michael still see the enemies above the sky. So, did we make a mistake? Azazel asked jokingly. I don't think we do the right thing because we want to make peace, said Michael with a smile. Azazel just sighed because Michael couldn't be asked to joke. Was it because his heart was too clean so he couldn't joke at all? Surzetches, who was talking to Rias Peerage, was now talking to the three fallen angels, who seemed to calm down when meeting the Mayu and the other two factions and the leader of his own faction. Can you fight? Surzetches asked the three fallen angels. Yes, we can fight, said Rainerer. Good, said Surzetches. The hooded people then let out their magic and then attacked the faction and the others. Easily the Mayu could block the attack with their protective magic. They are too naive, said Azazel. They don't know what they are fighting, said Surzetches. Sona's peerage are getting ready to fight the people. Sona looks worried about Riaz, but she doesn't seem to worry too much because she's with two crazy humans. I hope that the two don't make problems, said Sona. Kiba and Zenobia then took out their swords to fight those people. Kiba and Zenobia then ran forward very quickly. Kiba then slashed one of them and then took out the sword again in his left hand to slash the person behind him. Zenobia with Durandal then immediately slashed two people quite easily. Wow, it turns out you're stronger now, Zenobia, said the person behind Zenobia. Zenobia then turned to see who was speaking, and it turned out that the speaker was Irina with a smile at her. Zenobia is confused because it seems Irina doesn't hate her. Thank you, Zenobia said, flaming Irina. Zenobia doesn't know that she is in front of a hooded person who wants to attack her, but Tsubaki warns that person before he attacks Zenobia. Don't be careless, said Tsubaki. Zenobia nods in understanding. Zenobia then attacks the hooded people again. Akino is seen joining them. Looks like she is attacking the hooded people with her lightning and looks to enjoy them. Sona's peerage also didn't want to lose. They then helped Ria's peerage. Sona, who saw her, just smiled because it seemed like they really could work together. Sona then looks at the three fallen angels and is shocked because they have already borne fruit into their fallen angel mode and are preparing to attack. Are you really sure you want to fight too? Sona asked them. Of course, this is Luffy-sama's command. Luffy-sama's order can't be denied, said Rainerer. Sona looked shocked to see them suddenly taking out a spear of light that was quite large, in contrast to the spear of light from another fallen angel. The spear of light then quickly headed towards the sky towards the hooded people flying. The hooded people were then shocked to see a large spear of light coming towards them and then about them, so that they bounced and fell. Rainerer was glad that the results of the training were successful. Sona was shocked to see the light spear easily get rid of the hooded people. Great, said Sona, shocked. Kalauerner then quickly flew towards the hooded people. Kalauerner pulled out a spear of light. Kalauerner intended to attack them at close range. Kalauerner quickly defeated the hooded people in the air. Wait, she has 4 wings, shouted Saji, surprised to see Kalauerner. Azazel, who saw it, then smiled, because it was very rare that ordinary angels could bring up additional wings. Surzetches smiled because Luffy could motivate someone so they could become stronger. Midelt, who saw her sisters fighting, then also intended to help them. Midelt then realized that there was Lulu that she had to guard. Lulu-sama, you should take refuge with the Maou. Before Midelt finished her words, Midelt didn't see Lulu's side beside her. Midelt was shocked to see it. Midelt then looked up and was even more surprised to see Lulu, who turned out to be flying with her bat wings that were different from demon wings. Lulu's wings were more purple in darkness. Lulu-sama, Midelt shouted in surprise at Lulu. Rainerer and Kalauerner heard Midelt startled, then looked at Midelt. Midelt was screaming at the little girl. Rainerer and Kalauerner tried to see the little girl more clearly. Wait a minute. Rainerer and Kalauerner then turned pale to realize who the girl was. Lulu, same, shouted Rainerer and Kalauerner. Rainerer and Kalauerner then flew towards Lulu quickly. They were worried to see their master's daughter be hurt by this battle. Lulu-sama, do not go there. It's dangerous, Kalauerner shouted. Rainerer also wanted to fly to Lulu, but she was blocked by the hooded people. Rainerer was upset because they were blocking her towards Lulu. Get out of all of you. Rainerer then took out a smaller but fast spear of light. The spear of light then hit the hooded people until many fell to the ground. Rainerer then tried to chase Lulu, but there were more hooded people who blocked Rainerer. There are so many, just like cockroaches, Rainerer said irritably. Kalauerner flew towards Lulu, but she realized that Lulu was now surrounded by some of the people. Kalauerner then took out her spear of light to attack the people, but there were several more people who came to block the spear of Kalauerner's light. Kalauerner's spear of light could be defended, but there were some who could not, so it hit them because Kalauerner's spear of light was so strong, unlike usual. Lulu-sama, Kalauerner shouted. Looks like Lulu is surrounded by some of those people. Surzetches, who saw her, then tried to save Lulu but was stopped by Azazel. What are you doing, Azazel? I want to save her, said Surzetches. Calm down, Surzetches, don't you see the face of the little girl who smiles? Not feeling scared, said Azazel. Surzetches was shocked to hear the words from Azazel. Surzetches then saw Lulu's face and he was right. Lulu's face was smiling and didn't feel afraid. You have a lot of woe, Lulu said with a smile. Who is this little girl? I do not know. I feel there is strong magic energy inside her body. The hooded people were shocked to see a little girl who suddenly flew very fast towards them. For fear, they then surrounded Lulu with many people. Lulu just smiled to see those who seemed confused to see her. Lulu then tried to chat with them. "Hey, are you good people?" asked Lulu. Everyone there seemed to want to laugh at Lulu's innocent question. Lulu just looks confused with her cute face. "So you guys are bad people," said Lulu, seeing them. "Of course. We are bad people," said one person. Lulu remembers that her mother once said that bad people are not very good, they do what others don't like, so that person is very bad. Lulu doesn't like bad people. "Then I will defeat all of you because you said that bad people aren't fun," said Lulu. Lulu looks like she suddenly pulled out a sword from fire. The fire is different from what it normally is. The fire was darker red with a burning fire. The people around it seemed to be frightened. "Hellfire, slice!" Lulu shouted. Lulu then swung her sword to attack them all. Everyone near Lulu then looked cut and burnt. They fell to the ground and were seen squirming to the ground trying to extinguish the fire, but the fire did not appear to be extinguished. Everyone there was shocked to see Lulu easily defeating all those hooded people. Surzech's, who saw her, was only shocked because she was still a child. She had defeated a number of terrorists easily. "Incredible, I've never seen that fire," Azazel said. Surzech saw that Lulu only seemed to have fire like that. That fire came from hell, but the fire was slightly different. "Who teaches that element to a very innocent little child?" "Wow, they are falling," said Lulu, seeing them fall. Rainer and Kalauerner were already beside Lulu and surrounded her to protect her. They didn't think that their master's daughter was very strong like this. They think surely her mother is very strong too. "Lulu-sama, you're behind us alone," said Rainer. "Right, I will not let them hurt you," said Kalauerner. "Ha, but it's definitely very boring," Lulu said, looking sullen. Midelt then also came and protected Lulu too. She feels guilty for letting Lulu fly. "Lulu-sama, don't do it again. If you want to fight, you should just be near us," said Midelt angrily but caring. Lulu then looked happy to hear the words of her senpai. She was finally allowed to fight even though she had to be protected. "Okay, Midelt senpai," Lulu said happily. The three fallen angels smiled as Lulu smiled happily. They didn't expect that their master's daughter turned out to be quite cruel like Akino mixed with thirsty fighting like Luffy. "Okay, here they come," said Rainer. Rainer then fended off all their light attacks quite easily. The terrorists looked shocked because they had never seen a low-level fallen angel be able to fend off their attacks. Rainer just smiled at them looking shocked. "Don't think I'm like an ordinary fallen angel, I'm very different from them," said Rainer. The terrorists were really angry because they were underestimated like that. But of course they could be scared because in front of them there were three angels falling winged 4 pairs and a strange little girl who had very strong power. The 4 faction leaders only looked smiling seeing them fighting so extraordinary. Sarafal seemed to still be thinking about the girl who blew up the principal's office. "Sarafal, who is this girl actually?" Surzech asked. In fact, in another place, Gomu Gomu no Bazooka. Luffy was seen hitting one of the terrorists so that he bounced back and hit the person behind him so that he bounced back too. "A little more and we arrive," said Issei. They were now running on a volleyball court. They just crossed the field to reach the occult research building. Luffy then felt someone appearing in front of them. "Watch out," Luffy shouted. Luffy then uses his armament haki to block the light shot. Luffy has a little trouble blocking the attack but finally he succeeds. "Luffy, are you okay?" Riaz asked worriedly. "I'm fine, you should go ahead, this person is different from the others," said Luffy. Riaz doesn't want to leave Luffy but Luffy seems to feel that he doesn't need to be helped because he is very strong from what Riaz imagined. Riaz nodded understanding. Riaz then ran again. "Come on Issei," asked Riaz. "Okay Butcho, be careful," Luffy said Issei. Luffy just smiled at Issei. Issei looked more relieved to see Luffy's smile who immediately said that he would be fine. Riaz and Issei are far enough away from Luffy. Luffy now saw the person who shot the light magic. He looked more uniform and bigger than the others. "Looks like you are strong, I will fight you," said Luffy. That person just kept quiet and then issued another light magic. Luffy avoided the light shot easier because he had seen it. Luffy ran towards the person and prepared to attack the person. "Gomu Gomu no pistol," Luffy shouted. Luffy attacks the person who sees Luffy's attack then avoids it quite easily. Luffy, who saw the person avoid him, then tried to kick him. Gomu Gomu no stam, Luffy shouted the man straight ahead. That person can also avoid Luffy's attack. Luffy now really thinks that person is stronger than he imagined, but that is not a problem for him. Gomu Gomu no Muchi. Before the person touches the ground, Luffy once again kicks the person from the side and gets hit. The person then bounced to the side after Luffy kicked strong enough. Luffy smiled because the person was hit by the attack, but Luffy didn't look too happy because the person was still unconscious. "You're a strong enough person," said Luffy. That person once again attacked Luffy with his light shot. Luffy just smiled, thinking he could avoid it, but Luffy was shocked to see that light could suddenly turn and then point towards him from the side. Luffy then deflects the attack with Haki. Luffy then uses his right hand to attack the person. "Gomu Gomu no pistol," Luffy shouted. Luffy managed to hit the face of the person. The person once again bounced back, but Luffy did not know that there was a light shot behind him. Luffy was shocked to realize it. Boom. There was a very strong gunshot. The man saw the place where Luffy had been destroyed by the light shot. He was holding his cheek, which was hit by Luffy. That person then realized that Luffy was already in the sky and managed to avoid his light attack. "Gomu Gomu no Ono," Luffy shouted, then kicked it down. The person then immediately attacked by Luffy and his face then hit the ground very hard. That person is then unconscious. Phew, finally he lost too. "I didn't think that there were people who could use laser shots like pacifist humans," said Luffy. Luffy intends to pursue Riaz and the others, but Luffy feels that if someone comes again but more. Luffy sees dozens of terrorists surrounded by Luffy. "It looks like it's going to be a long time," said Luffy. The terrorists then issued another laser shot attack. Luffy dodged all the attacks with a little trouble because he had to be able to control Haki's observation to be able to feel all those light shots. "They have a lot of shit," thought Luffy, who kept dodging all the attacks. Luffy then gets ready to attack, seen from his hands that seem to want to hit in a row. When Luffy has a chance to attack, he will immediately attack. Luffy also has a chance. "Gomu Gomu no Gatling gun," Luffy shouted and then hit in a row towards them all. The terrorists were hit by Luffy's attack very quickly. They did not think that Luffy's hand could suddenly be a lot and then hit them all. "Do you have more?" Luffy asked. And sure enough, they then appear again. Luffy is now getting annoyed to see them keep coming and attacking him. "Get out of all of you," Luffy shouted to attack the terrorists. In the Occult Research Club. Seen in the guest room in the Occult Research, there was Kaneko, who was sitting waiting for the agreement to finish. But Kaneko realized that something was wrong when she saw a magic circle above the sky and then the magicians appeared. "Gasper, we have to get out of here. They seem to be looking for you," said Kaneko with her face flat. Gasper was still seen hiding in a box because he was still afraid of the outside world. Gasper then realized that there were some people approaching this building. They were not Luffy, Riaz or the others, but they seemed to be the terrorists who seemed to know their place. "Kaneko-senpai, they come," said Gasper. Kaneko was shocked to hear Gasper's words saying someone was coming. Kaneko then looked back and then was surprised because suddenly there was someone who broke through the window. That's what he said one of the hooded men who seemed to be women. Kaneko is now confused about what to do. The witch then attacked Kaneko. Kaneko dodged the witch's attack and Kaneko then kicked and beat the female magicians until she fell back from the window. "Ha, who are they?" shouted Gasper, scared. Kaneko realized that there were still many more to come. Kaneko then headed towards Gasper. Kaneko then lifted Gasper along with his cardboard box. Gasper was shocked in his box because suddenly he was lifted. "Wow, Kaneko-senpai," said Gasper, surprised to see Kaneko raise it. "We have to get out of here," said Kaneko. Kaneko then went to the exit and then ran to get out of the building of the occult. Kaneko ran from the hall, but then a witch appeared from the window. Kaneko then kicked it. "There are still a lot," said Gasper. Kaneko was curious about Gasper because he could find out they would come and their number could be felt by Gasper. Kaneko thinks whether Gasper's power is the same as Luffy's. "How do you know they will come in their number, Gasper?" asked Kaneko as she ran. "Oh, that's because of Haki," said Gasper. Haki. Kaneko seemed to have heard the word. "Right, the power taught by Luffy-senpai and Zoro-senpai to me," said Gasper. Kaneko then looked interested in hearing that. She had never heard of such power. Kaneko thinks it seems like she must have such strength in order to be even stronger. "Watch out, Kaneko-senpai, in front of you," said Gasper. Kaneko then saw a witch blocking their path. The witch then used her magic to attack Kaneko. Kaneko then avoided it quite easily. Kaneko then kicked the witch. "Good, Gasper," said Kaneko, thanking for telling. Gasper looks happy in his cardboard box because he has been praised by Kaneko. Kaneko continues to run in the hallway until the stairs look down. Kaneko then jumped down without using a ladder. "Wow. That was so creepy, Kaneko-senpai," said Gasper in his box. Kaneko kept running almost to the exit, but Kaneko then suddenly saw that they were surrounded. "Damn, they used teleport magic," said Kaneko. The witches then sealed Kaneko so Kaneko couldn't move at all. "Kaneko can't do anything now. Let's tie them," said one of the witches. In another school building. "Damn so much," Zoro back in his sword. Seen on the floor, a lot of the bodies of the terrorists lay helpless. They were no match for one of the strongest warriors in the world. "Well, I'll go to the cat girl," said Zoro. Zoro then ran forward to go to Kaneko's place. Zoro thought that he was on the right path. Zoro ran forward very quickly and hoped that he would arrive soon. Zoro didn't realize that there was someone behind him who seemed to be watching him from earlier. With Luffy. Luffy is seen still fighting the terrorists. Luffy almost defeats them all. "Gomu Gomu no Gatling gun," Luffy shouted. Luffy once again hit in a row towards the terrorists. The terrorists then bounced and fell to the ground unconscious. Luffy looked to the side, there was one left. Luffy then kicked it so strongly that he bounced backwards. Luffy realized that there was one more behind him. Luffy then hit the terrorist behind him. The terrorist then bounced back. "Phew, they finally lost everything," said Luffy. Luffy then ran after Riaz and the others. Luffy hoped that he could still chase them. Luffy then looked up at the sky and then was surprised because on top there was a huge light shot. "Whoa, what kind of strength is that?" said Luffy looking up at the sky. Luffy saw 4 women fighting with the terrorists. Luffy was seen knowing the 4 women. There are 2 small women and there are 2 adult women. They are Rainerer, Kalaarn, Midelt and Lulu who are fighting. "They're just getting better now," Luffy said, seeing the 3 fallen angels who were different from the one before him. Luffy was surprised because he realized that there was Lulu too. Lulu? Is he a fallen angel too?" asked Luffy in confusion. Luffy thinks that Lulu is a human, but it seems like she is another different race. Luffy thought again whether he was really married or not. "I'd better go after Riaz and Issei," Luffy said. Luffy continued to run after the 2 devils. Luffy could see the building he was looking for in front of him. In the occult club. Kaneko and Gasper look now tied up. Kaneko is tied upside down so that it shows her underwear while Gasper looks tied normally. Gasper looks unable to control his sacred gear. Looks like he was forced to use his sacred gear. Kaneko felt sorry for seeing Gasper like that. Kaneko looks upset because she can't protect Gasper at all. She is careless and feels weak to protect someone. Kaneko hopes that someone will come to save them. She hopes that her friends will come soon. Kaneko hopes that Luffy and Zoro will save her. She already considered Luffy to be someone who was important to her after being friends for a long time. Zoro was the person she just met, but he seemed to be good enough to her. He even seemed to know her true identity. Break. There was the sound of the door being smashed. Everyone in the room was shocked because the door was suddenly broken down. Kaneko was shocked to see who was coming. It was Zoro who suddenly arrived. "Who are you?" shouted one of the witches. "I am nobody, I just want to bring those 2 people," said Zoro pointing at Kaneko and Gasper. "How can this boy's sacred gear not affect him?" asked one of the witches. "I don't know, it looks like something is protecting it," replied one of the witches. Zoro then took out his sword to face them all. The magicians then attacked Zoro using light magic. Zoro dodged all the attacks. Zoro then hit the female witches on the back of his sword so that they did not feel hurt because they were cut off, just fainted because they were hit by Zoro. Zoro did not want to hurt a woman, even though he was a cold man against his enemies, but he turned out to have a gentle side to women, but Zoro did not show it directly. Zoro hit all the female witches with the blunt part of his sword so they all fainted. Zoro almost defeated them all. High one in front of him. Buck. Zoro's voice hit the back of the woman's witch's neck. Zoro managed to defeat them all. Zoro sheathed his sword and then walked towards Kaneko and Gasper. "Well, I'll release you 2, said Zoro. "Wait, Zoro-senpai," Kaneko shouted. "What is it, White Cat?" asked Zoro. You won't be able to release Gasper when he uses his sacred gear. Maybe later you will be able to expose the sacred gear, said Kaneko, telling. Then what should I do? Zoro asked. I don't know, said Kaneko, confused. Zoro then thought about this problem. He was most upset when told to think. He is a lazy person like Luffy who likes to sleep anywhere. Zoro thought about where the two devils were and Luffy. Then the door behind Zoro was broken down again. Kaneko-chan, Gasper, we will save you, shouted a black-haired man, Issei. Rias looks behind Issei, who looks happy because she arrived. Oh, you guys are here. You are very slow, said Zoro. How can you get here before us, Zoro? Issei shouted in surprise at Zoro. What do you mean? Of course I'm first here, said Zoro. That's not what I mean. How can you get here first? Asked Issei, confused. I just ran, answered Zoro. Issei and Ria sweat drop at Zoro, who did not understand their intentions. They were sure that Zoro was the most behind, and how could he first come here? Never mind, now we have to let go of these two people, said Zoro. Issei looks at Kaneko and Gasper. Kaneko is tied upside down and reveals her underwear. Issei is seen wearing her lecherous face. Kaneko, who saw Issei, then felt disgusted. Hey, do you have an idea to release them? Asked Zoro. Oh, Issei then bit his hand and then bled. Issei then threw his blood towards Gasper's mouth, so Gasper drank Issei's blood. Zoro looked confused at this incident, the first time he saw this rare event. Gasper then looks conscious and can control his sacred gear. Zoro is quite surprised to see it. Zoro then broke the ties from Kaneko, so Kaneko was free. Is it okay now? Zoro asked Kaneko. It doesn't seem right now, said Kaneko. Zoro then removed the bond from Gasper, so Gasper was free from his bond. Gasper looks still a little aware. Are you okay, Gasper? Asked Zoro. I'm fine, Zoro-senpai, said Gasper. Zoro just smiled to see Gasper was okay. They also gathered together now except Luffy, who hasn't arrived. They wonder where Luffy is now. Is he still fighting the enemy? Where is Luffy-kun? Rias asked. Ha 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 ha, sounded a very loud laugh. Then suddenly the window in the room was jolted by someone wearing a straw hat. He was Luffy, who seemed to be seen doing something nice. Ha 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 ha, it was very pleasant, Luffy said happily. Everyone there was really surprised to see Luffy suddenly coming. Luffy then stood up and then saw his friends in front. Luffy was really happy to see them all right. Oh, you guys are fine, said Luffy. Luffy then looks at Zoro and is shocked. Zoro, weren't you behind? Luffy asked in surprise. I don't know, all of a sudden I can get right here, said Zoro. Issei and Rias don't know what to say to Zoro's stray technique. Sometimes the technique is very disturbing but looks like it has very important uses. Okay, it's time to fight, Luffy shouted. Zoro smiled as Luffy said he was going to fight. The two pirates were really thirsty to fight now. Rias and Peerage just didn't know what to say to the two pirates. Now we have to go back to my brother's place, Rias said. All right, said Luffy. Luffy then extended his arms and then wrapped around Rias and her Peerage with Zoro. They were all shocked when Luffy did that. Zoro was then pale because he knew what Luffy would do. We're leaving, shouted Luffy, who then ran forward towards the window and then jumped out. Ahhhh, heard Rias and everyone's voice. Zoro was also seen screaming. Luffy jumped very fast down. Luffy then ran when he reached the ground and then ran very fast while carrying his friends. His friends looked pinned by Luffy's act. Back to battle. Ha, is that just your ability, fallen angel? Taunted a brown-skinned woman with a stick. Azazel by fighting Kateria Leviathan. Azazel just smiled at the words from Kateria. Yes, actually I just thought, what I should put out all my strength on, Azazel sneered. Kateria then looks angry when Azazel taunts her. Kateria then takes out her magic, which is water magic, to attack. Azazel avoided all the magic attacks quite easily, but he did not realize that he had been trapped by Kateria. Got it, said Katarina, who then took out water from underground. Azazel was then hit by the attack and was seen bouncing and then looked troubled to fly. Azazel then managed to control himself. Phew, that was really very dangerous, said Azazel jokingly. Kateria looks even more annoyed at Azazel. They fight each other again. Nearby there were a lot of very exciting battles. The three angels fell with a succubus child fighting in the sky. In that battle, there were some people who seemed to be watching the battle. They look not to be the leaders of the terrorists. Isn't this when we show ourselves? Someone asked the dragon-winged woman. I didn't think I have to meet Drake, that bastard again, said the woman beside the person. It's time. Chapter 38. They meet. Rainer threw several spears of light at some of the terrorists, and some of them were hit and fell. Kalauner and Mitlet look after Lulu, but they look exhausted because Lulu is very eager to fight and always gets out of their guard. Lulu-sama, don't do that, shouted Midelt. Lulu fought all the terrorists alone by using her sword. She felt that it seemed like the terrorists were targeting someone. Who are you aiming for? Lulu asked, interrogating one of them. The terrorist couldn't do anything at all because all his friends had been defeated very easily. Even if he fights Lulu, he knows that he will lose. I don't know, said the terrorist with fear. Oh, you don't want to say it? Okay, I will force you to say it, said Lulu. Lulu swiped the sword to scare the person in front of her. The person who saw Lulu's sword then began to fear because he would suffer the same fate as his friends who were attacked by Lulu. Well, I will say, we are targeting all the faction leaders here and a boy, said the person. Boy? Who? Asked Kalauner when he was close to Lulu with Midelt. A boy wears a straw hat, said the man. Kalauner, Midelt and Lulu were shocked to hear what the person said. They are aiming for a boy who is none other than Luffy, who is the only one wearing a straw hat. They are aiming for Luffy-sama, said Midelt, shocked. Why are they aiming for that straw hat boy? Asked Kalauner, who was worried about Luffy. I don't know, said the person. Don't lie, forced Midelt. I really don't know, only a few people who have high ranks know, said the person. Lulu then approached with a probing look. The person was really scared because he was approached by Lulu. He did not know what to do, so he just fell silent there. Lulu looked at the person. Thank you, you can leave now, said Lulu. The person was shocked to hear that. Lulu let him run away. The person then escaped from the three women. Kalauner and Midelt think that Lulu is a good person just like her father. Why did you let him run away, Lulu-sama? Maybe he is lying, said Midelt. No, he doesn't lie, Lulu said with confidence. Kalauner and Midelt nodded with the words from Lulu. Even though Lulu was still small, but she was a person who was very knowledgeable of who was lying and who was honest like her father, but it seemed her father was more stupid. So we have to find Luffy-sama, we have to look after him because he's one of their targets, said Midelt. Right, agreed Kalauner. Hey, where are you? I have been fighting them all and you just keep quiet. Rainer looked tired and angry at fighting the terrorists alone. Oh, sorry Rainer, we are looking for information from one of them, said Kalauner. Rainer looked sullen because of why it was something that did something easy. The three fallen angels saw their enemies fall to the ground as a result of losing to the four of them. They don't know that they really are very strong because they can defeat some magicians. Where are you? Lulu asked. Lulu looked here and there looking for Luffy, who didn't seem to have been there. Lulu was worried about her daddy now that was not seen from before. Was his daddy already caught by the terrorists? Seen with Riaz's peerage and Sona fighting with the terrorists, Kiba and Zenovia are slashing all of them. Akino had used her lightning to defeat the terrorists, while Sona's peerage fought in their own way. Surzetches smiled at the devils fighting. Looks like the demon generation is now really shocking the underworld, isn't it, Grafia? Said Surzetches. Grafia just nodded in agreement with Surzetches. The strongest queen in the underworld acknowledged that today's devils are very shocking. I think they will make the underworld a lively place and make noble devils if they understand, because they are too demeaning to the reincarnated devil, Grafia said. I wonder, where is the Straw Hat Boy and the human swordsman? Michael asked. Take it easy, Michael, they'll be fine, and I'm sure the two of them will make this dimension shocked by their strength, and show who humans really are, said Surzetches. Michael looks shocked at the words of Surzetches. He seems to say that humans are not ordinary creatures who inhabit this world. Does the Creator hide something about humans? What do you mean, Surzetches? Michael asked. You will know after you see them fighting, Michael said Surzetches. Michael saw that Surzetches seemed impatient to see Luffy and Zoro fighting. He was now someone who was really curious to see a very lively event. Watch out, said Zenovia, who slashed through one of the magicians who wanted to attack Irina. Oh, thank you, Zenovia, said Irina. Don't be too trivial, Irina, you can get hurt, plus you are a human, said Irina. No, Zenovia, look at me, said Irina. Irina then looked bright white, very bright. Then a wing appeared on her back, the angel wing. There was a halo on her head and there was a holy light nearby. Zenobia is shocked to see it. I'm not a human anymore, I was born into an angel now thanks to Michael-sama, said Irina. Xerxes then looked at Michael beside him. He was shocked because Michael made Irina become an angel. This is really rare for an angel. Did you give birth again to become an angel? Asked Xerxes. Yes, right, he insisted on asking that. She wanted to be a strong person to protect her friends. Was I wrong? Asked Michael. Not really, said Xerxes, smiling, looking back at their battle. Thank God, said Michael. The magicians who wanted to attack the faction leaders only seemed unable to redeem Graphia's protective magic. They were all hit by an ice attack from Graphia and fell. They were not a draw from the strongest queen in the underworld. The fight continued for how many minutes? The terrorists really did not know what they were fighting, plus Ria's and Sana's peerages were really excited about them all. And finally they saw that Kateria was now losing out against Azazel, who now uses armor with one of his sacred gear collections. What is wrong? Have you lost a lot of your magic? Azazel sneered. Shut up. Kateria then released a black magic like a snake. Azazel was shocked to see the magic that then bit his left arm. Everyone was shocked to see Azazel being attacked like that. Azazel smiled, then Azazel took a spear in his right hand, then attacked Kateria so that it pierced her stomach. What? Impossible, said Kateria, who bounced back and then disappeared due to Azazel's spear attack. Wow, that was very difficult, said Azazel. Azazel saw that his left arm was charred as well as the armor from his sacred gear. Azazel didn't mind. He has now won against Kateria. Xerxes looks happy the fallen angel won. He doesn't want to explain that the leader of the fallen angel faction has been killed when the three factions of peace occur. All right, these little terrorists are now disappearing, said Xerxes. Yeah. Then a very loud voice sounded. Everyone there was shocked to hear the voice. Whose voice is that? Aquino asked, hearing the voice. The voice then began to be heard closely. Everyone was shocked because in the middle of the field there was a person or several people who fell very quickly. After the smoke around the person disappeared, there were some people who seemed to be falling and there was one person laughing. Ha 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 ha, that was so much fun, said Luffy, laughing cheerfully. Plaque. Idiot, you could have killed us all. Zoro shouted to hit Luffy's head. Ouch, my head, said Issei, a little nauseous. Riaz looks to be balancing her slightly drunk body. Gasper looks like he is vomiting and Kaneko looks pale because Luffy never stops to run. Luffy just laughed, responding to them. Capital H, A, 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 said Luffy, saying sorry. Zoro then stopped laughing and then looked forward to where the battle took place. Zoro looked smiling, who finally fought earnestly. This is the moment. Zoro then took out the two swords. Papa, Lulu's voice called Luffy. Luffy then looked up if there was Lulu and three fallen angels heading towards him. Lulu then hugged Luffy. The three fallen angels also hugged Luffy, so Luffy fell backwards. Issei, who saw her, was just shocked and a little jealous because Luffy had many women who watched him. What? Luffy-sama, said Midelt, who was seen starting to cry. We were looking for you, said Rainerer. We were very worried, said Kalauerner. Luffy looks unable to breathe and wake up because of being overtaken by all of them. Luffy then with all his strength to get up and succeed. Luffy was seen breathing heavily because of the four girls. I'm finally free, said Luffy. Papa, there are enemies who want to target Daddy, said Lulu. After me. Yes, all of these terrorists are targeting you, said Kalauerner. Luffy stood up and then walked to Zoro's side and saw all the enemies in front of them. The three angels protected Luffy, Lulu in front of Luffy. They are making a formation to fight them all. What are we doing? Luffy asked. Of course the formation, said Rainerer. I'm coming. Gasper was next to Lulu so that Luffy and Zoro were seen in the middle, Lulu and Gasper in front, and Rainerer, Kalauerner and Midelt around Luffy and Zoro. The four leaders just stared at Luffy's group, as well as Ria's and Sana's peerage. What are they doing? Michael asked. Looks like they are forming a formation, said Xerxes. Wow, that's a pretty cool formation, said Sarafal. Graphia just stared at the three of them who seemed to feel pretty cool with this formation. Graphia even felt that they had bad taste. So, do you want to fight us? Luffy asked to challenge all the magicians. The wizards were then angry at being insulted by Luffy. All the witches then attacked Luffy's formation. Everyone there then dispersed because it was attacked by one of the magicians. "Damn, how dare you attack us," said Rainier, who then took out 2 light spears with one hand. Rainier threw the spear of light at the witch and then was hit by 4 people because it was translucent behind. Zoro was shocked because he could penetrate the magician's body. Midel took out a different spear of light because it had a brighter light on the end. Light shock. Midel throws her spear of light towards the more lively magicians. All those near the spear of light then seemed to feel that they were dazzled and felt that their bodies could not move. They are all really confused at this. What is wrong with me? I can't move my body. My body can't be in motion. The terrorists were really confused to see their bodies not move. Then they were shocked because Kalauerner suddenly headed towards them. Kalauerner brought a spear to attack them at close range. "They are really getting great," said Luffy. Zoro was seen fighting, also using his 3 swords. Zoro dodged and slashed to defeat them all. Zoro occasionally uses his 2-sword technique. "Great," said Michael, seeing Zoro. "That's still the beginning, Michael. You will be more amazed when he fights seriously," said Surzetches. Michael seems to believe the words of Surzetches. They are humans who are very different from humans here. They both have strange powers in their bodies. Luffy. Luffy then turns around to see who is calling him. The one who calls him is Irina. Luffy was surprised because Irina called him with a different name. Irina was in front of Luffy. "Why did you call me like that?" Luffy asked. "Do you not like it? I called you that as a sign of our relationship," said Irina. "Oh, that's okay," Luffy said with a smile. Irina seemed to be happy to talk to someone who has the same cheerful nature as Luffy talked to Irina kindly and laughed at each other. The 3 fallen angels then feel annoyed with their master because they only talk to women when the time is right. "Luffy-sama, it's not time to talk," said Rainier. "Oh, sorry," Luffy said apologetically. All of them were shocked because suddenly there was something in the sky that fell. Seen there was a monster that was like a dog but black. He looked at Luffy and the others with a sharp look. "What monster is that?" asked Akino. "I don't know, I feel like he looks at all of us," said Riaz. "Is he an enemy?" asked Kaneko. Riaz looks worried about the monster because it seems different from the monsters they often fight. Near them were 2 people who were watching them. "Are you sure that they will defeat him?" asked the smiling man. "I don't know, I don't think they will be able to defeat that dog, because that dog is an SS-class monster," said a dragon-winged woman. Luffy and Zoro, who saw him then, were only ready to attack him. Luffy then ran forward. "All of you, fight the terrorists, Zoro and I will fight it," said Luffy. Riaz and the others just nodded understanding. They then only took care of the terrorists. Luffy and the monster face to face with the monster. "Gomu Gomu no Bazooka," Luffy shouted. Luffy hit the monster's face but didn't seem to have much effect. Zoro then didn't want to lose, immediately attacked the monster with his sword. "Onigiri," Zoro yelled at the monster. The monster then felt his back slashed by Zoro so that there was a small wound. Zoro felt that the attack was less powerful. The 2 people who stared at Zoro and Luffy's fight were only shocked. "Hey, did you see that?" asked the man. "Yes, I see, they are not ordinary men," said the dragon-winged women. "It's really interesting," said the man. "Gomu Gomu no Ono," Luffy shouted, kicking down the monster. The monster felt his back calm down. Zoro then was above the monster's head and then attacked the monster's head. The monster felt that his head was cut off by Zoro and then severely injured. "Looks like this monster is quite strong," said Zoro. "I feel that it seems like this monster is really strong, when it defeated it quickly," said Luffy. Luffy then runs in front of the monster and then gets ready to defeat the monster, and Luffy uses Haki in his hand. "Gomu Gomu no Hawk Riffle," shouted Luffy, hitting the monster's stomach. Because mixing with Haki made the attack more deadly, Zoro was behind the monster. Zoro was getting ready to use his 2 swords. "Tatsumaki," Zoro shouted, then made a hurricane using his sword. The monster then flew up into the sky because of the attack from Zoro and then was torn apart by the wind from the hurricane. Then the monster fell down helplessly. The monster seemed unable to wake up again. "Finally he lost too," said Zoro. Luffy also looks happy to defeat the monster. Everyone is happy because Zoro and Luffy won. Michael was truly amazed by the 2 of them. Seen 2 people from afar who saw this were also shocked because they could defeat SS-level monsters easily. Zoro and Luffy then realize that there are other monsters that appear, they look very much and all of them are big. Luffy and Zoro look confused now. One of the monsters then attacks Luffy but Luffy reacts faster. Gomu Gomu no Muchi, shouted Luffy kicking the monster. The monster then bounced off to the side. Zoro then slashed at one of the monsters and again to the right. Luffy and Zoro then realized that they were too many. I have an idea, Luffy said. Luffy then smashed his hand and then bit his thumb. Everyone there was really confused to see what Luffy would do. Luffy's hand then suddenly grew so that everyone except Zoro surprised them. Gomu Gomu no elephant gun, Luffy shouted all with a single blow. All of the monsters were then seen being hit by huge hands and destroying them all. The area in Cow's school was completely destroyed and all of it was lucky because it was protected by Graphia's magic so that not all schools were destroyed. What is that? Riaz asked in surprise. That attack is really very dangerous, said Akino. All Riaz and Sana's peerages were really shocked by Luffy's strength. All the faction leaders were really shocked by Luffy's attack. They don't know that Luffy can do such a powerful attack. Luffy then stood looking at all the monsters that had lost by smiling. Luffy and Zoro then walked towards Riaz and the others again. The two people who saw this were really shocked to see Luffy. Wow, they are strong, said the man. TCH, who are they? Asked the dragon-winged man. Luffy and Zoro then walked towards Riaz and the others because they managed to defeat the monster. But when Luffy and Zoro arrived suddenly there were people who fell so that everyone was shocked. They then saw who fell and turned out to be Azazel. Ara, it seems I was betrayed, said Azazel casually. Everyone then looked up at the sky and was shocked because the one who injured him was Vali who used his dragon armor. Hey, why did you do it? Issei shouted. Why did I do it? I don't really like peace because it will be very boring, I prefer to fight, said Vali. Everyone was shocked to hear the words from Vali. Luffy and Zoro only stared at Vali with a sharp look. Issei who heard it then looked really angry. And one more, my real name is Vali Lucifer, said Vali. Surzetches was shocked to hear the words from Vali, if he was a descendant of Lucifer. So did the other faction leaders. Oh, that's very shocking, said Surzetches. Luffy looked very angry at Vali for hurting Azazel who he thought was a good person. Luffy remembers that he once fished with him. So that's all? You did it because you were bored? Issei shouted angrily. Don't pretend not to know, oh my rival, said Vali. Issei was puzzled by the words of Vali who seemed to have a certain purpose with him. I also want to defeat you here, said Vali. Beat me? Right, but I realize that you are weak, said Vali. Issei then gets angry and then changes into his dragon armor. Issei then heads towards Vali to immediately attack him. Vali just smiles seeing Issei heading towards him. Issei then intends to hit Vali but Vali easily catches Issei's punch. I told you that you were too weak, said Vali. Vali then hit Issei's face so that Issei bounced back and hit the school building. Vali then raised his right hand holding something, then the building of the occult research seemed to be drawn towards him. He can draw dimensions, that's really bad, said Surzetches. Ah, can he draw dimensional space? That's amazing, said Luffy. Everyone just stunned to see the nature of Luffy who was suddenly amazed by the power of Vali at a time like this. Issei then got up and then attacked Vali again. Vali still easily deflected Issei's attack and could counterattack from Issei. Issei's armor is almost completely destroyed. Issei then fell to the ground in pain. You are still weak, said Vali. Issei looks at Vali with a sharp look. Vali looks at Riaz and the others. Vali smiled like he had an idea. I know how to make you strong, said Vali. Vali then flies towards Asia very quickly. Issei was shocked to see Vali flying towards Asia. Asia was shocked because Vali flew towards her very quickly. By hurting someone who is important to you, you might be able to become stronger, said Vali. Vali is almost in the direction of Asia who seems scared because she doesn't know what to do. But Vali did not know that someone in front of Asia came suddenly very quickly. Gomu Gomu no Hawk Bazooka. Vali's face was suddenly hit by someone so quickly that Vali didn't realize it. Vali was shocked because his helmet was instantly destroyed very easily. What? Thought Vali. Vali sees that the person who protects Asia is Luffy who is quite different. Luffy looks to wear his second gear so that his skin is pink and looks to smoke. Luffy's hands look black because they are covered in hardeners. Luffy looked at Vali with a sharp look. Volley, who saw Luffy, was only shocked because he could be faster than him. Volley thought he would attack Luffy, however. Volley, watch out, said Albion. Volley felt that if someone next to him suddenly appeared very quickly, that person was Zoro, who then used one of his swords to attack Volley. Volley deflects Zoro's attack with his arm. Zoro landed beside Luffy and then sheathed his sword again. Zoro then looked at Volley with a sharp look. Volley sensed that the armor on his hand looked destroyed. Volley was really shocked to see it. Volley feels that they are not ordinary people. Volley, be careful, they are not ordinary people, I can feel from their eyes, said Albion. Hey you, don't hurt others when you have a fight. Issei is your opponent, you shouldn't be a coward, Luffy said. Volley looks upset at Luffy's words. Volley feels that the words from Luffy are true. Issei then attacked Volley from behind. Volley, who knew it and then avoided the attack from Issei. Volley flies up into the sky. Issei follows Volley flying up. My opponent is Volley. Don't hurt other people, Issei said. Don't joke, you're still weak, said Volley. Don't underestimate me. Issei, who was full of enthusiasm, then attacked Volley very strongly. Volley was shocked because Issei was suddenly stronger than before. Issei continued to beat Volley. Volley really was now shocked because Issei could match him now in the speed of a blow. He suddenly became strong, said Volley. Issei was then seen hitting Volley's chest and then issued a white light. Volley was shocked because it was the sacred gear. Issei holds Volley's sacred gear. Volley, I will take your sacred gear, said Issei. You want to take my sacred gear? Don't be too stupid, said Volley. Drake and I are elements that push and oppose each other, you won't be able to, said Albion. Issei didn't care. He was then seen mastering Volley's sacred gear, but it seemed like he was in pain. Issei still seemed to be trying. Do you know, Albion? I think that fools are stupid, but fools can do what they can, said Drake. Issei was then seen successfully controlling Volley's sacred gear. Volley and Albion were shocked to see it. They didn't think that Issei really succeeded. How is that, Volley? I managed to take your sacred gear, said Issei. Volley is shocked, then smiles and laughs. Issei and the others were really confused seeing Volley laughing. Luffy and Zoro looked surprised to see Volley laughing. Why with it? Luffy asked. I don't know, Zoro said. Volley then looks at Issei, who looks confused because Volley suddenly laughs. Well, it seems like I have to be serious now, said Volley. Volley then wants to fight seriously with Issei, but when he wants to fight again, suddenly the protector of Graphia is destroyed like someone destroyed it. Graphia was shocked because the protector to protect the outside city was suddenly destroyed. There was a person who fell in front of Issei, near Volley. The person has a stick that is long enough, has a crown and wears red clothes that look like armor. Bikao, said Volley. Come on, Volley, now is not the right time, said Bikao. Volley sighs resignedly because he now has to go back. Volley then looks at Issei and smiles. It looks like we have to split up, my rival, said Volley. Oh, so you are the Red Dragon Emperor? Yes, I am Bikao. Greetings, said Bikao. Issei just paused to see this incident. Luffy and Zoro only thought whether a man like a monkey would fight too. Luffy looks like it doesn't matter if the person will fight too because he is ready. What about in the monster world? Volley whispered to Bikao. The new person and the cat girl are heading there to retrieve it, said Bikao. Are you sure he can do it? Asked Volley. I don't know, but Office really believes in that new person, said Bikao. Okay then, said Volley. Volley and Bikao then suddenly release teleport magic. Volley still looks at Issei, who tries to attack again but doesn't seem to be able to get around because he's too far away. Be stronger, my rival, said Volley. Volley and Bikao then disappeared from their gazes. Issei looked annoyed that Volley really could run away from him. Issei then returns to his form without armor. Damn, they managed to escape, said Issei. Riaz and the others look relieved because it looks like the battle is finally over. Riaz's peerage and the others then approach Issei. Riaz is heading towards Luffy, thinking, is he okay? Are you okay, Luffy? Riaz asked. I'm fine, Riaz, take it easy, said Luffy. Riaz is relieved to see Luffy safe. Zoro just smiles seeing Riaz so worried about Luffy. They all asked each other if they were all right. They all looked happy because the battle finally ended. Many survived. Michael decided to hold them all in heaven. The two other people who still saw it from before just felt that their task had been completed. But it looks like the dragon-winged woman seems not satisfied because she hasn't seen anything interesting. We'd better go, said the man next to the woman. Wait a minute, I still want to do something. The dragon-winged woman then pulled out her magic towards Luffy. The dragon-winged woman thought that she had to hurt Luffy so everyone would panic there. "Watch out!" shouted the man. The woman then saw that suddenly there was a sword-shaped fire magic almost cutting them all. The girl and the man survived the attack. They all then saw who attacked them. Seen a woman in her 20s is flying using her wings. She has characteristics that are very familiar to the dragon-winged woman. "Why do you always bother other people, fallen goddess?" the woman asked. "Why do you always bother me too?" Evelina Tiamat asked. Evelina only looked funny smiling at the words of Tiamat. They were both people who were never peaceful at all. "Don't just smile, stupid succubus," said Tiamat. "It's just funny because you never seem to like others happy," Tiamat said Evelina. "Shut up, you don't know anything about me," said Tiamat slightly grimly. Luffy and the others were shocked after hearing a magic attack. They all saw at the end of the school there was someone flying and seemed to be fighting. Lulu looked at one of the people and then was surprised to find out who one of the people was. Lulu quickly flew towards the people. "Lulu-sama, where do you want to go?" asked Kalauerner. Lulu didn't listen to Kalauerner. The three fallen angels were worried to see Lulu just leave. Luffy, who saw him, tried to reach him with the power of his devil fruit and then managed to catch Lulu. "Where are you going?" Luffy asked. "Oh yes, Daddy must also come," said Lulu. Lulu then holds the rubber hand that holds his body. Lulu pulls Luffy, so Luffy is interested in flying with Lulu to the people who are fighting. Everyone was shocked to see Lulu able to lift Luffy easily. Zoro was only surprised to see Luffy being dragged by Lulu to fly with him. Zoro didn't know what to do. Riaz then pursues Luffy with the three fallen angels. "Is this okay?" asked Issei, who seemed to want to chase as well but looked lost due to the fight. Evelina still saw Tiamat, who seemed to have a problem. Evelina then took out two large swords using fire magic to attack Tiamat. Evelina then headed towards Tiamat, who looked shocked because Evelina suddenly attacked her. Tiamat blocked the attack from Evelina by using her hand quite easily. Evelina glared at Tiamat. "So what's wrong, Tiamat? Why can you be called the fallen goddess?" asked Evelina. "You don't need to know," Tiamat said. The two of them clashed with each other by flying to and fro. Their battles were like a lightning bolt that collided with each other. Evelina and Tiamat continue to compete with each other. "Great," said the man, smiling seeing them fighting each other. Then a woman appeared next to the man. The woman suddenly appeared using a teleport-colored magic Hajayu. "Why are you so long?" asked the woman. "Sorry, we had a problem," Gaia said the man. Gaia just frowns at the man's words. Gaia then looks at Tiamat and Evelina, who continue to fight each other to the point of destroying several school buildings. "You're not bad either, old woman," said Evelina. "I am already old but I still look very young," said Tiamat, who then used to let out wind and fire magic. Evelina, who saw her attack, then only dodged it. Evelina still continued to attack Tiamat with her two swords. "Why are you suddenly moody?" asked Evelina. Tiamat was shocked to find out that Evelina knew she was depressed at the time. Tiamat can't say anything. Evelina then attacked Tiamat using his sword. Tiamat restrained Evelyn's attack by using her hands, which were lined with dragon scales. "Why don't you say everything to me?" Evelina asked while clashing with Tiamat. "What do you mean?" Tiamat asked. "I know that you have a problem," said Evelina. "Shut up, I don't need anyone else to help me," said Tiamat. The two of them then bounced back because their magic energy collided. They both looked at each other while flying. "Didn't you have to do something?" asked the man next to Gaia. "All right," said Gaia. Gaia then used her magic to help Tiamat. As the whole plant at the school suddenly grew and grew very fast, the plant then attacked Evelina like this caught it. Evelina avoided all the attacks quite easily. Everyone in the school was surprised because suddenly all the plants in Chaos School suddenly grew quickly. "What's wrong?" Azazel asked. "I don't know, it seems like the women there did it," said Surzetches, pointing towards Gaia. "Isn't he?" Michael knew who the woman was. "Right, she is Gaia, the Titaness," said Surzetches. Everyone was shocked to hear one of the highest races. They had heard that Titan and God had fought each other. Luffy, who was being dragged, was only confused because the plant attacked him and Lulu. Lulu used the hand next to the fire sword to cut all the plants to pass while pulling Luffy. Riaz and the three fallen angels looked troubled with all the plants. They were shocked because the plants suddenly appeared to attack them. "What's the matter of these plants?" Midlet asked with difficulty with the plant. "Why can it be like this?" asked Rainerer. Damn, Ria's used her destructive magic to destroy the plant. Evelina is now surrounded by the plant so that she can't go anywhere anymore. Tiamat then landed next to Gaia and the man. Why are you doing it? Tiamat said angrily. I know you're angry again, but you can't beat it, said Gaia. Tiamat just felt annoyed by the words from Gaia. It was true, he was very troubled with the succubus. He should not underestimate it. Oh yes, succubus, there is something I say to you from your mistress, said Gaia. Lilith-sama, shocked Evelina. He said Gaia. Evelina was then surprised to hear the words from Gaia. Is it really what Gaia said? Gaia then just smiled because she could finally send a message from the teaser woman. And I heard that your sister has joined us in the new gate organization, said Gaia. Evelina was then surprised to hear that Gaia said about her sister. She was really shocked. If I'm not mistaken, the name is Zapiria Eveline, said Gaia. Evelina, who heard her sister's name, then got angry. Evelina then destroyed all the plants around her with the power of her fire. Evelina then looked towards Gaia. Where's Zapiria? Evelina shouted angrily. Wow, it turns out she can get angry too, said the man. She was with us, Gaia said. Evelina was really angry if her sister was hurt by these people. Never mind, when we come back, said Gaia. Gaia then took out his teleport magic to leave immediately. Evelina tried to attack Gaia, but it seemed too late because it was blocked by the plants. Gaia and the two people. Evelina didn't have time to attack them. Damn, said Evelina. Evelina looked pensive now, thinking of her sister. She did leave her sisters because she did not want to be involved in the family's problems, but she was still concerned about her sisters and their mothers. Mama. Then Evelina heard that there was a voice she knew so well. Evelina then looked to her side and was surprised to see Lulu flying towards her. He is with someone. Mama. Lulu then hugged her mother. Oh Lulu, said Evelina, who then smiled at her daughter. Lulu looks happy because she met again with her mother. Lulu then remembers that she brought Luffy, so her mother finally met. Mama, see, I'm carrying Daddy, said Lulu, who then pulled Luffy, whose arms were long. Evelina was shocked to see Luffy. She was really shocked because she finally met Luffy. For a long time she wanted to meet Luffy again. Dear, said Evelina, looking embarrassed. Luffy, who saw Evelina, then just paused and was surprised to see Evelina, suddenly embarrassed to see her. Dear, you're just getting more handsome, said Evelina. Luffy just remained silent seeing this woman. Luffy then remembered the woman and was shocked. Rias and the three fallen angels are then close to Luffy and Lulu, who are talking to a woman. They think whether that woman is an enemy? Then they heard a shout from Luffy. You can? Luffy shouted. Rias and the three fallen angels then stopped heading towards Luffy in shock when they heard Luffy shouting. 20 minutes later. Seen now, Grafia is using her magic to restore Cow's school as before. She is also disappearing from plants that grow quickly and make them become smaller again. The three faction leaders only saw Grafia's work. A hard-working wife, said Azazel. Right, agreed Michael. Ha 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 ha, she's always like that, said Serzetches. The three faction leaders just laughed at each other. Grafia, who saw them just frowning because they just laughed, didn't help her. Grafia then looks at Luffy, who is talking to Rias, Sona and their peerages. What? She is Luffy's wife? Quotation mark. There was an unbelieving shout. Grafia wondered what they were talking about there. I didn't know this strange man has a child, said Momo, pointing and hitting Luffy with her index finger. Ha 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 ha, thank you, said Luffy. That's not praise, shouted Momo irritably. Everyone just laughed at Luffy. Luffy once again looked at Evelina. He was absolutely sure that he had seen her. So is it true that you have seen this woman, Luffy? Asked Zoro. Right, when I was a kid, I was being trained by my grandfather at night. He threw me into the forest, and when I was traveling to the forest to find my way home, I met her, said Luffy. Everyone then just nodded understanding, but they pity Luffy for his inhumane practice. Evelina looks very happy to meet Luffy. So do you believe? Asked Evelina. Rias and Akino still don't believe what happened. They still don't accept that Luffy already has a child. I still can't believe, Rias said. Evelina then looked towards Rias, who still seemed stubborn not to accept all this. Evelina then headed towards Rias. So your name is Rias, said Evelina. Right, so you are the woman who raped the 10-year-old child and then got pregnant, and you now want to show yourself to that child after he is an adult. Don't you have any shame? Rias asked irritably. Actually, I feel guilty for doing that, said Evelina. Looking guilty for doing that? Lulu, who saw her mother being mad by Riaz, then headed to her mother and hugged her. She didn't want to see her mother sad. "Mama doesn't need to be sad," said Lulu. Evelina then felt calm because she saw her daughter trying to comfort her. Luffy, who saw the two of them, then just smiled because he didn't really matter about this. He was quite happy to have a daughter because it seemed like it was very fun, said the parents in his world. "Riaz, it looks like you're overdoing," Aquino said. Riaz, who hears the words of Aquino, then feels guilty for saying that. "This is not anyone's fault." "Sorry," said Riaz. "It's okay, I know what you mean," said Evelina. Michael then comes to leave all of them, like to say something. "I want to talk to a human named Luffy," said Michael. Luffy then came to Michael because he came to him. Luffy thought why he called him. "Yes, I'm Luffy," said Luffy. "Ah, I want to say thank you for helping this meeting," said Michael. "It doesn't matter," said Luffy. "Then I'll excuse myself to go back to heaven. I will also bring angels who are still alive," said Michael. Michael then goes back to heaven to report this to the gods throughout mythology because this is a problem that is quite dangerous. Michael and his soldiers then went away to return to heaven. "So what are we doing now?" Luffy asked. "Yes, I decided to stay at your house, my dear," said Evelina. Riaz cringes to hear Evelina call Luffy by the name of dear. She looks pretty annoyed, but she tries not to make it affect her too much. "Wait, you said you wanted to stay at Ayano's house?" Riaz shouted in surprise. Evelina was then surprised to hear Ayano's name. "Who is Ayano, honey?" asked Evelina. "She is the owner of the house that I live with," said Luffy. "In that case, I want to meet with her," said Evelina. "Okay, it's time to go home," Luffy shouted. "Ya," shouted Lulu in agreement with Luffy. Riaz and the others were just sweet dripping seeing her husband and daughter. Evelina just laughed at the two of them. At another place. Scene now that we are in a place like a forest. There are some bodies like monsters falling on the ground. There are visible orcs, goblins and some other evil mythological creatures. "Wow, it turns out you're really strong," said a cat girl who followed a tall man from behind her. The man just ignored the words of the cat girl. He continued walking towards their destination. The cat girl was only seen following the man while passing through the bodies of monsters killed by the man. "You don't need to fight, I can handle it all," said the man. "Oh come on Katakuri-chan, I also want to fight," said the cat girl. Katakuri just looks sighing with this cat girl. Why should he be with this cat girl? He agreed that he was assigned to find an object that was very important for their organization. Then Katakuri felt that there was a goblin who wanted to attack him. Katakuri then stopped. Katakuri looked like he was holding a small stone. Katakuri then used his thumb to throw the stone towards the head of the goblin, so he died because the stone redeemed his head. "I've never been tired of seeing that," Kuroka said. They then continued their journey to a place that seemed like a place that could not be passed, but they still went through that place. To be continued. End of chapter 38.